Okay, so I just wanted to show a little bit of some of the programming practices that I learned from somebody else. It's not something that I have learned on my own by any means. I don't want to say that. I'm learning all of this from other guys. So basically, program structure. What can happen is in as with, I think, any program, as you're writing it and you're going, it can get really complicated because the lines can just keep going and going and going. So finding problems becomes much more difficult. In the case of Mission Pinball Framework, some of the guys had suggested that you break your config files up. Now, the config files are basically your program files. Basically, I took their structure, which is kind of the way they said to break it up, and I'm setting up my program using their structure. So in the config file, which is the config YAML, or YAML, basically you kind of set up your config, which is you define all of your other configuration files, and then you've got your modes down here, which will be listed and become, I believe, folders and their own files, which I haven't gotten there yet, so I apologize. Hardware. It is defined in its own YAML file. I'm calling it a YAML because I don't know what else to call it. YAML. And then you got sound system, switches, which you'll have a lot of switches if you're doing a pinball game. Coils, I haven't defined them all yet because I'm still working on my program. The auto fire coils. This is basically the one that I've been using as my test to learn my programming. So I'm trying not to get my program so complicated before I really know what I'm doing. Coil player, which I don't know how to use that yet, but I imagine the coil player allows you to set up steps for coils. I don't know. The flippers, I've commented them out for the time being because I'm not using them. You have a game configuration, where it says balls per game, max players, allow start with loose balls. I haven't really looked into those, what those mean yet. You've got, let's see, the LED player, the keyboard setup, defining keyboards, buttons to specific switches so you can test. The LEDs, where you define all your LEDs and the I/O. You've got your machine config file. And again, this is copied from somebody else, and I don't know exactly what it means, and hopefully I'll go into more of a description later. Sound player, modes, and sounds. And this is where my sound, which is the only thing I have called out, is a track from the movie. So I can tell you right now, just from starting this, it's significantly easier just to make changes and find problems. Now, what I've done is I'm testing, and so I'm building sections in my actual config file. I'm going to later transfer these into their respective files, like displays, slides, DMD slide, all that's going to go into the correct files in the end, but right now I'm monkeying with them to get things to work, and it's laziness because I don't really know what I'm doing. Anyway, I'll do more of a write-up and a better video once I get going. Again, I'm just a new user, so I'm really just scratching the surface on this.